We live in sorrow, and die in pain and darkness. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Himbar, and today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of H. Rider Haggard's Eric Brighteyes. Eric Brighteyes is an 1891 novel by H. Rider Haggard. It's written in 1888, actually, after a trip to Iceland, and this is the second novel I've read by Haggard, the other one being She. This is a Viking novel set in the 10th century Iceland. Eric Brighteyes Thorgrimsson, seems to win the hand of Gudruda the Fair. This is before conversion on the island, of course. He is the most beautiful, most daring, and strong of men. He's also not, well, the most lucky, though. And Swanhild is beautiful, too. But the evil sister of Gudruda, she has a different mother, a Finnish woman. And the story involves the fate of these characters, with some others, of course. There's sorcery and thievish prowess. I love the language, right? Like, read thy reed is an example. The archaism and somewhat archaic form of history that's on display here. There's some nice, weird writing of fictional events, I think. And very nice and different from She by him as well. It's very adventurous, like She, but of a different vein. It's much more heroic in that Germanic tradition. More sword and sorcery-esque, though this is earlier than that. And again, this is... I mean, it's not right, I guess, to call this pure historical fiction, because like I said, it has like the sorcery and stuff you'd maybe expect from like a saga. And I enjoy the supernatural, and especially the female characters that really drive the story along. They're really the movers and shakers of the story, with Brighteyes just really being one component, and one of the things kind of being moved and shaked. The Sword of Whitefire, which is the so-called Blade of Odin, is a proper addition, I think, to such a saga of curses and tragedy as well. There's early Viking historical pastiche really on display, and it's really well done. And I've read more romantic stories like this by people like Arthur Gilchrist Broder or E.R. Edison's Sturby and the Strong as another example, though I haven't finished that one actually. And this is a direct following of William Morris's and Eric Magnusson's translations of the sagas into English, really. I feel like that's almost certainly a direct a result of that. And I have two versions of this novel, actually. One has an intro by Len Carter, which you saw on the screen here first, where he gives a nice overview of Haggard's legacy and what drove him to write potentially what he says the best historical Viking novel ever. And he compares him to many literary greats that I'd say are, well, more popular today than Haggard actually is. And the other, which you see on screen right now, is actually the one edited by Tom Shippey and recently released by Upsala Books. He also writes an introduction and provides some context and footnotes and leaves some longer notes actually in the back. It also has some of the author's preface my other copy didn't have for some reason. The introduction is superb in providing much information in just 2 pages. And it's, well, 12 pages, so you get a lot in the first 2, and it's just actually longer. And there's some images throughout as well. And so he makes the apt historical notes on Vikings, particularly among the Victorians, and points out the story is more Victorian rather than saga. In fact, this romance makes it feel less like a predecessor to Sword and Sorcery. And I mean, well, than I thought it was, I guess, initially, though that genre can be romantic itself. And though obviously this is to be expected, and I'm being a bit picky, it was still an enjoyable novel. Tolkien, however, did have some good things to say about the novel as well. He considered it heroic, that I guess that's a quote from him, heroic, and well, it is at times. The companionship of Skallagrim and Eric is nice, and their battle prowess is really undeniable. Haggard's preface has some really similar ideas of, well, story that I've seen in Morris, similar, well, related to romantic nationalism of the time. And there's a 1979 sequel written by Sigfrio, or something like that, Skaldespiller. I don't have the book here in front of me. It's a pen name, actually, for Mildred Downey Broxton. And there's actually less of a sequel, but actually the same story from the point of view of Swanhild, making her not so much as an evil villain, but her own more realistic person. I actually have that book. I should read that. I don't even remember where I got it. I've had it for years. Also, the dedication is to the late Emperor Frederick, who apparently enjoyed Haggard's earlier books, and it is addressed to Queen Victoria. So, nice historical note for that, at least, too. So, anyways, if you haven't checked this one out, again, 1891, that might be worth checking out. That's a good time period, late 1880s, 1890s, has some great fiction in it. Anyways, Liam from Liam's Lyceum, I'll catch you next time.